morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Friday, April 12th. There we are. Now we're online. Today, Friday, April 12th, 2019.
We have Commissioner Garcia, James, Davis, and Caloza. Mr. President, we do have a quorum. Can we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Street Services?
Good morning. Hector Banuelos, Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning. Jose Fuentes, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning. Hisang Kim, Bureau of Sanitation.
Good morning. Asad Al-Najjar, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning. Brett McReynolds, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning. Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we did receive speaker cards under general public comment for today. We have no commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section, and we did receive speaker cards on items number 1, 2, 4, and 5.
And there's been a request from the bureaus to continue agenda item number 6 to Monday, April 29th, 2019. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And Mr. Roch, are you still with us? Okay, I'm going to go. Can I call your item? Okay. Let's go ahead and take care of number 4, Office of Community Beautification, various contract amendments for Office of Community Beautification contractors. Recommend that the Board of Public Works, subject to City Council and Mayor approval, approve contract amendments for the following contractors to continue graffiti removal and community beautification services through June 30th, 2021. Central City Action Committee, Korea, and the contract numbers, by the way, are listed here as well. Central City Action Committee, Koreatown Youth and Community Center, Coalition for Responsible Community Development, New Directions for Youth, Pacific Graffiti Solutions, Gang Alternatives Program, Silmar Graffiti Busters, Hollywood Beautification Team, Northeast Graffiti Busters, West Valley Alliance, Sun Valley Area Chamber of Commerce, Los Angeles Conservation Corps, and Graffiti Control Systems. And secondly, authorize OCB and/or the Office of the City Attorney to make minor technical corrections to the contract amendment as necessary to ensure that all legal requirements are included in the final contract language. So apparently the authority to sign these contracts will be taken care of at a later date. Before we have Mr. Roch, Dr. Williams, you have a card in on number 4? Welcome back, sir.
Good morning. Dr. Tom Williams, Citizens Coalition for a Safe Community, Sierra Club, and LA 32 Neighborhood Council. Item number 4, Office of Community Beautification. They have helped us in El Sereno a lot before, a couple of years ago. We did over 100 cubic yards of mulch spreading using some of their equipment and their assistance. However, all of these consultants, contractors, do they communicate with the neighborhood councils? And that's one of the things I would like to have added to their contracts, that either the office or the individual contractors notify the neighborhood councils when they are going to do graffiti removal, because I still have 20 some odd cans of yellow paint that I use to graffiti-ize the fire hydrants in our area. And other people do mitigation also. So we need to have some coordination. On the more positive side, the neighborhood councils, especially in the months of April, May, and June, have a lot of money left over that they haven't spent, and they usually delegate it as neighborhood purpose grants. Up to $5,000 in a single grant. So there's a coordination issue as to notify the neighborhood councils when these contractors are going to be in their jurisdiction. It's a department of the city of Los Angeles, so coordinate. They do a great job if we know when they're going to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Mr. Roch on number 4.
Good morning. Paul Roch, Director of the Office of Community Beautification, which maintains contracts with various nonprofit community-based organizations for graffiti removal, public right-of-way cleanup, and other various services as funded. The current set of contracts that we have were originally executed in 2013 and are currently due to expire on June 30th of this year. Due to issues related to the implementation of the state of California prevailing wage laws at the beginning of the current fiscal year, we so far have not been able to release an RFP for new contracts as originally expected. So the request this morning is that the Board of Public Works approve an extension to the term of the contracts through June 30th of 2021, subject to council and mayor approval. We will be back before the board for approval of the actual dollar amounts of the various contracts after the budget has been approved by council and we know what the OCB budget will be for the upcoming fiscal year. Our expectation is that a RFP will be released hopefully later this year once issues related to the prevailing wage and a proposed apprenticeship program that goes along with that have been clarified. The Office of Community Beautification, along with Commissioner Garcia, the Mayor's Office, and the Bureau of Contract Administration have been working to push for a new prevailing wage definition category for graffiti removal workers that would be more in line with the appropriate wages. We're hopeful there will be some new determinations perhaps this summer, but in the meantime we do need to continue providing as much service as possible and moving ahead with implementing contract amendments for a continuation of services for the upcoming fiscal year. Thank you for your attention to this item.
Thank you, Mr. Roch. Any questions at all? I don't have any questions either, so we'll see you fairly soon when the contracts are ready for signature.
Right.
I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 4, seconded by the rest of the board, so that'll be your order on number 4. Any issue sending number 4 forthwith? Thank you, sir. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
weekend. Thank you.
Mr. President, on that item, there is a request to approve it as amended to remove item
which
number
we
3,
talked about
recommendation
already.
number 3, which is what Paul just described in his oral testimony. If we can have just an amended motion, that would be great for the record.
That was amended, as amended.
Thank you.
Yeah. All we did, just to be clear, in case you missed that, we just struck recommendation number 3. That was the signature issue that we discussed at the opening of the agenda item, and Mr. Roch mentioned as well. Is there a second to my motion that we approve the meeting minutes from the meeting of Wednesday, March 6, 2019 by Commissioner Garcia? Any objection? Without objection, we will approve those meeting minutes. A couple of sanitation items this morning. Number 1, memorandum of agreement, California Association of Sanitation Agencies, recommending that the board first authorize the general manager of LA Sanitation and Environment or his designee to execute the memorandum of agreement for the purpose of a share of funding for a wastewater flow and load study. Secondly, return the MOA, that's the memorandum of agreement, to the Office of Accounting for further processing. And third, authorize myself or 2 members of the Board of Public Works to execute the MOA. Mr. Sachs, you have a card in on number 1.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much, Arnold Ross Sachs. Thank you for the opportunity to address you.
Good morning, sir. Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I've had some personal issues to attend to.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much. The reason I actually held this is it's strangeness with the funding that goes on in LA as a city as a whole. And I do remember reading a story when they were talking about the DWP and its billing process and all the systems that were involved in that. And somebody wrote a story that said wastewater funding is included in that billing. I'm not 100% sure of the exact wording, but the story mentioned something to do with the funding or the billing for housing. When you bill the public, it's included in the DWP billing. So I was just curious to know, since that's the situation and DWP had such a difficult time with their rollout of their new billing system, how did that affect sanitation or any of the other people that are listed on the bill? Because you never really know. DWP has never really come to a complete explanation of what went on with the billing system and how that was fouled up. Just curious to know, because you're looking for funding for one thing, and there's problems with funding all the time, and then there's funding problems with rainy day funds. That's what I wanted to really talk to you about, ask you about. I appreciate your time. I'll come back for the other two items I have held. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. And for agenda item number 1, Dale Burgoyne. Good morning, sir. Welcome back.
Good morning. Board President, Commissioners, Bureau Representatives, and Executive Officer. My name is Dale Burgoyne. I'm here to talk about this MOA that's been proposed. Wastewater service charges are based on the flow and strength of the wastewater from the customers. We use 2 measures of strength. One's called biochemical oxygen demand, one's called suspended solids. But it's not practical to measure the flow or the strength of the wastewater coming from every customer. And so we rely on estimates of the strengths and flows in many cases in determining our rates as well as in charging our customers. And so we rely on first the strength and the wastewater flows from the customers. We use them also for assessing sewage facilities charges on new development, because at that point we don't know what their water use has been. And we also use the percentage of water usage that goes into the sewer. We use that in charging our commercial customers for sewer service charges. We also use estimates of flows and strength from customers for purposes of calculating the wastewater from our contract agencies in those areas where the areas are too small to justify real flow, wastewater flow monitoring. Now, water conservation in the past, in several years, has been greatly reduced. The wastewater flow from our customers has been greatly reduced because of water conservation. And in fact, in LA, it has been reduced by 16% between 2013 and 2017. Since 2017, however, it has more or less leveled off. So we would expect that the estimates of customer flows would go down something maybe similar to 16% in aggregate, but we would expect also some changes to the average strengths of those of the wastewater from those customers. Now, CASA has sponsored a statewide program of flow monitoring and strength measurement from various types of residential and commercial customers, and has asked Los Angeles to participate. This will allow Los Angeles to use the results of this program in assessing its own rates and determining the customer's charges. Now, this program includes, for each customer, they measure the strength and waste and flow of. They gauge the flow coming out of the customers, the wastewater. They also determine the water usage from that customer, as well as they sample the wastewater and analyze the samples to determine the strength. Now, this study is particularly timely for sanitation because we will be proposing changes in the sewer service charge rate starting in 2021. It's also timely because the reduction in flows have leveled off. And so we have some hope that the results of this project will be valid for a while. So this study monitoring began in Northern California in last year, a couple of years, and is now expanding into Southern California, and starting this month will be starting in Los Angeles itself. So we're asking for authorization for executing the MOA so that so LA can pay its share of the cost of the study, and that share is $1.4 million. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Burgoyne. Yeah, just a couple, and thank you for the background and the explanation. That's helpful. Just a couple things that are unclear to me, and I don't necessarily know the answer. I looked through the MOU and the board report. Is this the first time that we've worked with this nonprofit on a task like this?
That I don't know.
Okay. Do you know, Adina?
This is the first.
Let me tell you, it's the first time I think that we've done it since I've been here.
It's my impression that this is a new endeavor that's being organized statewide in order to assist all within California to sort of validate these assumptions.
Okay. It just looked new to me, and
this is the first-
there wasn't a previous MOU that was attached here, and so I thought that this is not something that's a continuation of what we had done in prior years.
Yeah, this is the first time I know of that we've done a statewide flow and loading study.
Okay.
Now, it's possible what happened many years ago, the State Water Resources Control Board has its own suggested parameters, strengths and flows for various, mostly strengths for various customers, but that's very, very old. I mean, I knew that list of strengths when I first started doing the cost of service business in the 1980s, and so I think it's high time that it be updated.
Fair enough. We'll start with Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, President James. I have a couple of maybe logistical questions, but City of LA is going to contribute $1.4 million to this study. Right. That's our share?
That's correct.
And is that, I know you said something, it's so loud. I know you said something that it was based on the amount, or I guess how big we are. Is that correct?
Basically, it's based on the average dry weather flow of our wastewater. So I think we're paying the same as some other very large agencies, such as county sanitation districts.
Do you know like which one?
Well, the county sanitation districts is one organization. They handle wastewater treatment and conveyance in the part of the county that's not Los Angeles.
Okay.
So it's a very large agency.
Okay, so the 1.4 million, is that for a yearly amount? How long?
That's in MOA. It says that's the maximum amount.
For how long?
For the entire project. This project is supposed to wrap up this year, so although I think there is a chance they may come back and ask for more if they find some problems with the gauging.
So this is ongoing. It's already happening, right? We're just going to pay our...
It's more or less finished in Northern California, and it's starting right now in Southern California. And like I said in my presentation, it'll start this month in LA.
And when will this study be done? For us, since we're just starting now.
I'm not certain of that. I think most of the gauging and monitoring will happen in the next few months. The study itself may take a year or two.
Okay. So I guess what I'm trying to find out is is there any procedure that you will come back again for more, or is this the 1.4 going to cover everything?
We're expecting this to be it, but I can't guarantee that they may not add more phases to the study, and in that case we'll have to come back.
Okay. Well, so from the study, and I know you kind of gave the presentation, will we be receiving any kind of tangible stuff, or after that we just take the studies and the statistics from it and kind of move forward with that?
We'll have access to the data and the results, the average flows and strength. That data we'll have access to. We can use it. I don't know that they're planning to give that data out more broadly. So yes, we'll have access to the data. Like I said, it's very timely for us because we're looking at our rate structure, and we're looking at including these factors which enter into the rate structure. So it's a good timing for us.
Okay, I just find it a little bit expensive. I guess it's the 1.4 cost.
Yeah, it is
for
expensive.
A study.
But this gauging stuff, gauging sewage is hard.
Is this
because sewage is heterogeneous. It's prone to problems, and so it's expensive to do it, and the sampling as well. And so and they're doing it statewide, so they're doing it in quite a number of locations to get a statistically valid result. So yeah, I'm not surprised it's this hard, this expensive.
So will you be the one being the lead on this, participating and having up-to-date information? Tracking, I guess, how sanitation comes to the table?
Well, I'll be the one managing the program from our perspective. I don't make the ultimate decisions, obviously, but I guess I'll be the one.
Okay, so good. That way I can come and ask you and ask for update information.
Okay, yeah, I'll be the one with the information when we get it.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Caloza?
Good morning. Thanks for presenting today and for your report. I have a few questions. One, for the record, can you state the 13 other member agencies who are going to be part of the study? That's one question. And do you know if the other 13 agencies are also going to be using this study for the purpose of looking at their fees and changing them, or is LA the only one using this study in that way?
No,
and
go ahead.
And I have one more question, but I will let you answer.
Yeah, no, I think all 14 are probably in it for the same reason.
So is it 13 or 14?
Well, I thought it was 13 in addition to LA. Is that correct, Adina? Well, it's in the report.
It says
It's in the
13.
MOA.
Or,
Okay. But I think all of the participants are planning to use it for more or less the same reason, to establish their own rates and charges.
can you state for the record who the other 13 agencies are? Because it's not listed in here.
I can't tell you all of them. I know that it includes, in Southern California, it includes the Orange County Sanitation District. It includes the County Sanitation Districts of Los Angeles County, who we mentioned before. It includes Inland Empire Utilities District in the Inland Empire. It includes Ojai. It includes a number in Southern California. I don't remember the rest. In Northern California, includes San Francisco. Includes Regional San in Sacramento area. I don't remember all the others. Some of them are kind of new to me, so I just don't remember all of them.
Okay, if you can share that after, that would be
We'll look
really
'em up.
helpful. And then my last question is, I think Commissioner Garcia asked about the cost. So if LA is contributing 1.4 million, is that the greatest share in terms of all the other 13 agencies and what we're paying for this study? Or do you know what the other agencies are paying?
I don't know the total. I could look that up. I'm sure I can get that, and I can tell you what percentage of the total that is, but I can't right now.
Yeah, that would be helpful to see how much the total cost of the study is, since it's not really associated with the actual cost of the study itself, but everyone's paying a percentage depending on the size of their agency, right?
That is
so
correct.
It sounds like we're paying more than what it actually costs to do the study, right?
Well, they base it on the average dry weather flow from the agencies, figuring that the larger agencies had a bigger need for it, or maybe had more customers that would be affected by it. I'm not sure why they did it on that basis, but that's the way they did it. And since we're among the largest utilities in the state, we pay at the larger tier of costs.
Yeah, it would be helpful to see that breakdown if you can just share it after.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll find it.
Can I say something? Sure.
Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, President. Following up some of Calosa's also concern, I think on the report, I would have wanted to see the other cost sharing part of this, because I think it's important for us to know what share we put in and what the other ones put in. And I think part of also this report, we should have probably put, instead of the total funding for this project is not to exceed 1.4, I think it should be shared, because we're not paying for the entire project for everybody else.
No, we're not.
So we might have to move this and just add the word shared. This is only our cost and not our total funding of project.
Okay.
Those would have been kind of my recommendations for the report.
Okay. I'll report back on your questions then.
1 minute. So, Ms. Hoppenstein, could I ask you a question regarding the MOA? So, to the points made by my colleagues on the MOA, Section 2 says LA San will contribute toward the cost of the wastewater flow and load study at an overall amount not to exceed $1,400,000 over a period of 2 years. And the, I guess what, if I understand my colleague's request, they're asking for a memorialization of the formula for what percentage of the whole cost we're paying for. Did I understand that correctly? Okay. So is that something that, is it in a, have I missed it in the documents that I've read, or is it, do you want, should we add a couple of days to add it in?
I have some, well, as more participants join,
Yeah,
the
the share
amount
goes down.
changes.
Yeah.
And that's part of this kind of cost not to exceed amount.
Got it.
As Mr. Burgoyne explained, the way the shares were allocated in terms of each participating entity's proportion was based on the amount of wastewater flow within the agency. My understanding is of the percent of the budget, we are paying the same amount as LA County Sanitation District, so it's County Sanitation District 2. But it ranges up and down the state. OC Sanitation District is also paying a sizable amount, I think, and it's a percentage of budget by MGD, millions of gallons per day. So LA and then our counterpart in the county or sanitation district, it's a separate public agency, is about 31% of that, of the total amount. And then OC Sanitation 14%, and then there are different amounts varying from that from the other participating agencies.
Could that be attached as an addendum to the MOA?
I think because it's adjusting,
There's risk to doing that?
to some extent. So the attempt by the MOA is to memorialize the city's maximum participation. There is a mention that if for some reason there is a need for additional funding, that would require an amendment to the MOA. So but the MOA is what it is. And so this is the invoicing, the anticipated invoicing, because the study has been phased. Phase 1 is finished, we're in phase 2, so that's where some of this monetization has come from.
Commissioner Garcia?
I would have liked to known everything else that you're saying into our report. Can I make the suggestion, and I don't know how my colleagues feel, but can you include all of that into the report and then bring it back and we can adopt it that way?
So there's time sensitivity actually on
So
some
why
of the
did we
cash
wait so
flow
long?
issues. That's a wonderful question. There are processes that took a while. I'm happy to report back and explain more if needed. And there's also this study is subject to a common interest privilege, and so because we're dealing with rate setting, so there are some things that can be publicly conveyed and some things that are not.
I understand that, but I think we're always getting ourselves into the situation of last minute, and we don't have this whole entire, everything you just said right now, it's not on the report.
I understand.
And I think, when writing the report, we should have done it much more with clarity, and all the information should have been put into the report. So I suggest pulling it over for another week until this report kind of gets more robust.
So for clarification, you'd like additional information as to the participating parties,
Yes.
as well as their relative approved funding to date?
Yes.
And that doesn't have to go into the MOA, Commissioner Garcia,
Right.
correct? It could be in the board report.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That way,
exactly.
you're not, chances are, folks aren't going to check on the board report as much. The MOA is the more public document, even though it's a public document.
All of it is public information.
And
course
also
it is.
include the 13 cities that are part of that Calosa asked about.
Okay.
But I agree with Ms. Hoppestein. Obviously, it's all public documents, but the MOA is what's going to be signed and floated around.
Yeah.
Somebody would have to affirmatively search for the board report. Commissioner Davis.
I wanted to just better understand. So the study that we are paying for, obviously, we have a portion, as has been stated in your review of the finances, and every other entity in our region pays its appropriate portion for it. But as we understand the problem, there has been a decrease, I guess it is, in the compulsion of our wastewater supply based upon the drought. Is that pretty accurate?
That's true.
And then as a result of this drought and the composition of our water makeup in the region, there are in the industry some more aggressive measures in terms of how to better give a solution to this problem. Before we embark upon financing potentially some of these new technologies that are out there, we just want to get this study to better assess where we are. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, well, the purpose of the study is to develop the parameters we use in charging customers.
Correct.
There is an element of developing new technologies that they're looking at. I think that's a pretty small percentage of the total effort. But they are looking at what they call in situ monitoring of strength, for example.
So the assessment that is made by the study will give us the information we need as to how much we need to charge our ratepayers.
It will make for more accurate charging. You could always...
Let me ask you this. We have had to put more energy and work into the wastewater system recently, correct? As a result of the drought. What has happened as a result of the drought?
Well, the biggest impact from my perspective, since I'm a financial guy, is that our revenues went down.
Right. Because of the drought.
Because of the drought, yeah.
Hello, I work at Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant as the operation manager, so I deal with the flow and sewage characteristic pretty much every day.
The flow is lower as a result?
Flow is lower, so I would say at Hyperion and then pretty much whole city of LA, last 15 years or 20 years, we've seen close to 30% drop in flow rate in terms of volume. However, the population has gone up and people go to bathroom 3 times a day, take shower once a day. That didn't change. You know, we all do laundry. We all go to restaurant and all that, you know. Total pounds of loading has been pretty stable over the years. So the currently sewer fee is definitely for residential, is based on volume, mostly volume, right? With some default, you know, BOD loading, BOD concentration and all that.
Yeah, the strength, there's an assumption of residential strength in that figure.
Yes.
But the actual calculation of the charges is the rate times volume.
How does that figure in the reality that water suppliers have established a more aggressive measure? Is it that the water suppliers' more aggressive measure has been more of a cost to us? Tell me what relevance.
Well, the relevance has been that our revenues have gone down. Now, we had a 10-year rate increase schedule starting in 2012.
Sure.
And that's why we're looking at our rates right now. But we had anticipated a certain level of capital we'd spend.
Sure.
But when the revenues started going down, we had to scale that back a bit. So for a couple of years, we scaled back the amount of our capital program. Since then, we've bounced back up to a higher level because the revenues have increased. And the conservation or the flow reductions have leveled off. So yeah, we probably are spending less on capital today than we would have had we had the full impact from our rate increases.
How does that relate to our water suppliers that we're dealing with?
Well, Water and Power, I presume, had the same issue with their revenues.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Caloza?
I just had 2 points to make. And maybe I missed this in this document, but you mentioned that the cost share is going to change depending on how many more agencies join this study. I don't know if that's reflected on here, but I didn't even know that others could join. And so I think that's why, it is really important, even if you can't list the amount or the share that they're contributing to the study, to at least list for transparency purposes who else is participating. And the fact that others can also join, I don't think that's really clear here. And I think it would be helpful to make that change to the report.
Okay, thank you.
So, just to be clear on what we're doing, Adina, are we coming back with an updated report? Okay. Adina, how much, I know that you are on a time deadline. How quickly do you want us to re-agendize this?
I think we could do it pretty quickly. I don't see that.
You can tell us what date you'd like, because you guys are the ones submitting the updated report.
How long before the meeting do you have to have the report?
Well, I'll put this, because we've already had this hearing, I'll put this on a special, so that would be 24 hours before, which means for what date would you like? If you would like, Wednesday would be the best.
Wednesday would work for us.
Because what we would need is by Monday at 3 p.m. is when we would like it to post for Wednesday.
Okay.
And it really is just an update of the report on the hearing that we've had today.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have any problem getting it to you by then.
And I don't anticipate rehearing the item as well.
Right. Can you also include some of the background information that you just stated regarding the flow and everything else on the background section? That would be very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you both. So Dr. Campos, we are moving agenda item number 1 to Wednesday.
Wednesday, April 17th?
Yes. And they're going to submit the report on Monday, and we're going to put it on a special. So we just had the hearing this morning.
I'm hesitating simply because the changes may appear to be substantial, and if the changes are substantial in the board report, one of the options could be to withdraw the
Go ahead,
item.
Ted.
And then
We're not changing the.
They're not substantial.
They're not. My understanding is there are not going to be any changes at all to
the board report,
to the contract,
to the MOA,
and they're going to provide some additional information to supplement what's already in the report, including some background information talking about the decreased flow and increased concentrations of sewer flow, and the number of other jurisdictions and their financial input into the MOA. The MOA itself is not changing, and this information will just supplement what's already in the report.
Yeah, I know you stepped out for a moment, Dr. Campos.
The only request I would make from the Bureau of Sanitation.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
What we're going to do is they're going to submit an additional report that has background information and clarifying information that was already put on the record by Ms. by Ms. Hoppenstan at the microphone this morning.
Okay. So it'll be a supplemental to the board report as as a transmittal, a new transmittal, or as a revised board report? That's the part that I'm not clear.
It's entirely up to the Bureau, but I think just a supplemental report is...
A supplemental report's the easiest thing to do.
Written information.
Correct.
Yeah.
And as the city attorney said, in terms of the flow information, it is already prevalent in the background, the history and information of the flow. So all they are doing is adding, as the city attorney said, these additional partners who are paying.
Okay.
It's just a clarifying attachment.
We'll move the item over to Wednesday, April 17th. The Bureau of Sanitation will submit a supplemental board report to be attached to this item. I would need that supplemental by 2 o'clock today to post for public information.
No.
We'll go ahead and do that.
I told them by Monday at 3 o'clock. It's for Wednesday's meeting.
Is there a special?
As a special?
Yes, as a special.
We
We just had a 45-minute hearing on this item.
I missed that part. I thought it was just a continuation.
No.
So it's to continue to be placed as a special item, not as a regular item.
Correct.
Okay.
On Wednesday. We just had
I'm
45
perfectly
minutes of a
fine with
hearing
that.
on this item, so we're
Perfectly fine
not
with
going to do that again.
That's just a special item.
All right, so that's on agenda item number 1. Agenda item number 2, authority of agreement, grant funding for alternative fuel vehicle programmatic support of the Los Angeles Clean Cities Coalition, recommending that the board first approve and forward the report with its transmittals forthwith to the mayor and the city council, with the recommendation that the city council, subject to mayoral approval, authorize the director of LA Sanitation and Environment or his designee to apply for, accept, negotiate, execute, and submit all documents, including but not limited to applications. Actually, you know what? Before we do this one, I want to take number 3. Council District 3, tree removal at 6221 North Fallbrook Avenue, recommending that the board first certify that the board has reviewed and considered the information in the mitigated negative declaration for the project at 6221 North Fallbrook Avenue, and find the information contained therein appropriately addresses the requested tree removals. Secondly, find that the project will not have a significant environmental effect under the above described mitigated negative declaration, as the imposition of the mitigation measures described in the MND and incorporated herein as project conditions, and that there is no substantial evidence that the proposed project will have a significant effect on the environment pursuant to the city's environmental guidelines and is in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. Third, find that the project's conflict with any local policies or ordinances protecting biological resources, such as tree preservation policies or ordinances, is less than significant with the incorporation of mitigation measures 4-70 as contained in the MND. 4, specify that the Bureau of Street Services, Streets LA, Urban Forestry Division, located at 1149 South Broadway, is custodian of the documents or other material that constitute the record of proceedings upon which the board's decision is based. 5, approve the request for a fee tree removal permit for 4 blue gum trees, 3 Aleppo pine trees, 2 Siberian elm trees, 1 bottle tree, and 1 California pepper tree. Tree replacements are required. And number 6, concur with Streets LA's determination. If the site cannot feasibly accommodate all of the required replacement trees, thus pursuant to LAMC, that's LA Municipal Code 62177C, authorize the tree replacement guarantee fee to satisfy the Public Works planting requirement. Mr. Banuelos, we will start with you.
Yes, good morning, President James, Commissioners, Bureau Representatives, Mr. Campos, and Mr. Jordan. Hector Banuelos from the Bureau of Street Services, Urban Forestry Division. What we have before us is a request to remove 11 of 12 trees growing in the public right-of-way by Weber Consultants Incorporated for construction of an elder care and assisted living facility at 6221 North Fallbrook Avenue at the northwest corner of Irwin Street. As a condition to construct the facility, the developer is required to widen Irwin Street from a 9-foot half roadway to a 18-foot half roadway. As such, it will negatively impact 11 of the 12 street trees growing at the project site. The Urban Forestry Division arborist inspected the location in August and September of 2018, and the inspection reveals that all but 3 trees are in very poor health and declining state, and for that reason alone, they should be removed. The remaining trees, there are 3 Aleppo pines and 1 bottle tree and 1 pepper tree are in fair condition. However, they're going to be negatively, the root structure will be compromised by the required street widening. Right? Since we have assessed the trees, 1 tree fell over during the recent, or actually during the rain events of January. It was reportedly that the tree fell around December or January. UFD was not notified, but we did a post-inspection, and it did reveal that there was a tree that failed, and so it's a missing tree. But the Bureau is still recommending that the request be 11 trees and 12. 1 tree will not be impacted and will remain in place. That is a crepe myrtle. It's healthy and does not warrant removal. So if approved, the developer will plant 12 trees on site. That is all that can be feasibly planted, and then they will pay a cash in lieu fee for the 10 trees that are required to make the 2-to-1. Now, the Bureau, the Streets LA, did review the project mitigated negative declaration, and it reveals that the tree removals and replants are addressed within the document. The 3rd Council District Office, the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, and the Community Forestry Advisory Committee were notified of the proposed tree removals. Do we have any questions?
No, I would just note for the record that the MND and the environmental documents are all in order, and just confirm with you, Mr. Banuelos, that the Streets LA, that your team confirmed that the environmental documents relate to the trees that are the subject of the report, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Dr. Williams, did you have a card in on number 3? You did not. I've got Mr. Herman. You have a card in on number 3? Mr. Herman? Okay. Mr. Spindler, do you have a card in on number 3? Mr. Spindler? For your puppet? Okay, then I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 3. Is there a second? By Commissioner Caloza. And Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 3. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any issue that on sending number 3 forthwith? We'll send number 3 forthwith. Agenda item number 2, going back to sanitation, authority of agreement grant funding for alternative fuel vehicle programmatic support of the Los Angeles Clean Cities Coalition, recommending that the board first approve and forward the report and its transmittals forthwith to the mayor and the city council with the recommendation that the city council, subject to, sir, hang on one more moment. Dr. Williams, you do have a card in on general public comment, correct?
I have general comments and number 2 and number 5.
Okay, let's go ahead and take general public comment. All right? Dr. Williams, come on up.
General public comment?
Yes, general public comment. Sorry. It's one of those days. We're doing our best.
One of those days. All right. Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council. Basic elements. We're doing an oil and gas issue next week for the Sierra Club Airport Marina. But the oil and gas is under your jurisdiction, I think, within the city of Los Angeles. We want to know how to form a spatial assessment district or a specific plan specifically for oil and gas development in the city of Los Angeles. We're trying to find any source of how do you prepare a specific plan from the planning department, but also a spatial assessment district. Please find some way of putting online how to do a spatial assessment district. Because we have a couple issues in El Sereno regarding streets, but I pointed out to him it was not only streets, but it's signage, it's lighting, it's drainage, all sorts of things. And they want to do something. Are they willing to pay $10 a year, $100 a year for the next 25 years? Maybe, but we don't know where to start. A spatial assessment district for public works or for oil and gas, and how to control oil and gas and who's going to pay for it. So basically we want to see a spatial assessment district procedure. What's the best way? I think you've done some. Therefore, there must be a format, there must be a procedure to follow. Make it easy, put it online, and we'll use it.
2 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Public comment for Mr. Spindler. Mr. Spindler, public comment, general public comment for your puppet. Mr. Herman, general public comment for your performance, Mr. Herman. Okay, Mr. Sachs, general public comment. Come on up.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Ross Sachs. Good news and bad news. The good news is, or the bad news, whichever way you look at it, is I spent the last week going to some county commission hearings. I got dumber and then I got smarter. And so I'm more in tune now than ever about details, detail-oriented. I've always been that way. There's some items on your agenda. There's some public comment I heard. You should read, I was going to talk about item number 2, but I really started laughing about it. Catch-22 is a great book. It actually really is. It's actually a book about government and how insanity is normal. There's a connection there, and that's why I bring it up. I appreciate the fact when you have this meeting, evidently you read everything into the record on your agenda. I heard Mr. James said that it's put on the record at the microphone by somebody from the Public Works Department. See, that's a real problem because everything in city council chambers is not put on record. So you have to find out where the power is in order to find out where the power is. And that's what I did when I went to those committee meetings. So I'm much more in tune now with the details in a lot of these items. If I happen to mention something, I'm like a bull in a china shop. I'm only trying to do good damage or damage bad China, not necessarily meaning China itself. So if I say something and somebody reacts to it, sorry. But we just had a gentleman asking about hearings and hearings and hearings, and he had been before these committee meetings for 10, 15 years, and he's still asking.
2
There's
minutes.
the disconnect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. We'll close general public comment. Agenda item number 2, Authority of Agreement, Grant Funding for Alternative Fuel Vehicle Programmatic Support of the Los Angeles Clean Cities Coalition. Recommending that the board approve and forward the report and its transmittals forthwith to the mayor and the city council, with the recommendation that the city council, subject to mayoral approval, authorize the director of sanitation or his designee to apply for, accept, negotiate, execute, and submit all documents, including but not limited to applications, agreements, and amendments, subject to the approval of the city attorney as to form, which may be necessary to secure grant funds in an amount not to exceed $500,000 for alternative fuel vehicle programmatic support for the period of January 1, 2019 to December 31, 2023. 5 years. Secondly, authorize sanitation to continue to participate in the Clean Cities program by completing the redesignation process with the U.S. Department of Energy, expected to begin during fiscal year 2018-19. Third, authorize sanitation to receive, if awarded, grant funds from the DOE or other selected DOE vendors and appropriate up to $500,000 in the Environmental Affairs Trust Fund, Fund 537, Department Number 50, Clean Cities Program Support. Fourth, authorize sanitation to transfer and appropriate up to $100,000 each fiscal year from the Environmental Affairs Trust Fund Number 537, Department 50, Appropriation Unit 50-311, Clean Cities Program Support to Fund 100, Department 82, with the following appropriation units that's listed in the agenda. Number 5, authorize the controller to make technical corrections as necessary. Paul Cobian. Finally, you make your way all the way up the aisle, sir. I apologize to you for, at least you got some exercise. Halfway up, then back. Halfway up, then back. Go right ahead.
Thank you, President James. Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Cobian. I'm an environmental supervisor with.
Oh, one moment, real quick. Let me just call a couple of speakers. Actually, don't go all the way back,
Okay,
Mr.
I'll stay
Cobian. I've got I've got Mr. Spindler's puppet. Mr. Spindler, are you here? Mr. Herman, you here? On number 2, Dr. Williams, you want to speak now or after Mr. Cobian? Go ahead. Go ahead. Then we'll be.
Just a little bit of backlogging. Dr. Tom Williams, Sierra Club, and a few others. Number 1, I want all of the documents regarding item 1. This is a PRA request because from what was online, it was not the same as what has been developed by presentation and questions and answers from the respondent. Okay, now, item number 2. When did the sanitation department become the environmental department, or division, Bureau of environment. I don't remember that. There's also a matter that, a new name, by the way, LA SANE. If you're going to put it in writing, put it in the acronym, S-A-N-E. SAN goes to SANE. However, where did this come from? Why does the Public Works Department have jurisdiction over air pollution and vehicles when you have a Department of Transportation who has a very large fleet of CNG buses and will have electric buses? So it seems you're poaching somebody else's silo. I understand kind of why and where and such, but I'm quite concerned regarding how the Public Works Department takes over emissions and air pollution and alternative.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Mr. Cobian. And Mr. Sachs. Mr. Sachs, are you here? Mr. Cobian, come on up.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Cobian. I'm an environmental supervisor with the Regulatory Affairs Division of LA Sanitation. LA Sanitation is seeking your approval to continue to participate in a cooperative agreement grant with the U.S. Department of Energy Clean Cities Program and to continue to secure grants, funds not to exceed $500,000 for the period of January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2023. On March 22nd, 1996, the City of Los Angeles partnered with the U.S. Department of Energy Clean Cities Program, thereby creating the Los Angeles Clean Cities Coalition. The Los Angeles Clean Cities Coalition consists of all city departments and their fleets, including LA DOT, LAWA, the ports, water and power, police and fire, GSD, as well as LA Sanitation. With nearly 100 coalitions throughout the nation, the mission of the program is to advance affordable domestic transportation fuels, energy-efficient mobility systems, and other fuel-saving technologies and practices within those communities where the coalition is located. The Los Angeles Clean Cities Coalition provides assistance to city fleets, implementing alternative and renewable fuels, idle reduction measures, fuel economy improvements, and emerging transportation technologies. Throughout the year, we also conduct public education and coordinate community outreach events focusing on alternative fueled vehicles and technologies where we discuss the benefits of these fuels and technologies and also sharing with citizens and Angelenos the incentives and rebates that are available to them. For over 23 years, the City of Los Angeles has benefited significantly from having this nationally recognized coalition within the City of Los Angeles and has contributed to our Department of Public Works mission of enhancing quality of life, economic growth, public health, and environment to all Angelenos. I thank you for your consideration, and if you have any questions, I'm pleased to answer them this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Cobian. Any questions at all on this? I don't have any questions. $100,000 a year. That's clear. All right, we got it. I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 2, seconded by Commissioner Garcia. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 2. Thank you. Any issue sending number 2 forthwith? We'll send number 2 forthwith. Agenda item number 5, contract award, Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant, Central Storm Drain Rerouting. Recommending the board declare PPC Construction the first low bidder to be the lowest responsible bidder and award PPC a contract for the project for $2,865,180. And secondly, authorize myself or 2 members of the board to execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained from the city attorney. Mr. Spindler, you have a card on number 5. Mr. Spindler. Mr. Herman, you have a card on number 5. Mr. Herman. Dr. Williams, you have a card on number 5.
Dr. Tom Williams, Sierra Club Water Committee. One of the things that we've noticed is the use of groundwater and the fact that the low impact development ordinance requires on-site use for irrigation or for groundwater recharge. Why is storm drainage at Hyperion not put underground? You have a lot of area for irrigation. You have a lot of area underground for groundwater recharge. It's a good location. Oh, by the way, we would also like to know, as part of the flow load issues, as to how much water does Playa Vista produce? Because we have records that show that they dewater the groundwater table because of gas and a few other things, and they have a permit to discharge groundwater to LA San. And apparently that's to avoid an MPDES permit. So we're kind of interested in why the groundwater, and then why water, stormwater from LA San, Hyperion, is recharged to the coastal aquifer. It's there, it's underground, yeah, but if you're going to collect it, don't discharge it to the ocean. You're trying to get rid of discharges to Santa Monica Bay. And that would be a good way. Hey, the groundwater needs it, because Playa Vista, we believe, is dewatering the groundwater. Fresh water, not salt water, but fresh water. And they discharge it to LA Sanitation. So we're quite concerned about what you do with the discharge of stormwater on Hyperion. Please get it underground. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Mr. Shaw.
Nadir Shah, Bureau of Engineering, Environmental Engineering Division. Central Storm Drain Rerouting Project will be undertaken at the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant located in Council District 11. The plant is divided into 3 distinct storm drainage areas served by distinct storm drain system, namely the north, the south, and the central storm drain system. The purpose of this project is to upgrade the central storm drain system and to prevent debris, solids, and hydrocarbons from entering the plant processes and 1 mile outfall. The project scope of work includes the installation of a hydrodynamic separator, 3 pumps, 100 linear feet of 18-inch diameter reinforced concrete pipe, conversion of an abandoned wet well into a stormwater wet well, and associated improvements. The construction duration for this project is 365 calendar days. 3 bids were received on January 23rd, 2019, ranging from $2.86 million to $3.37 million. The lowest bid is 9.6% below the city engineer's estimate of $3.36 million. The program review committee approved the total project budget of $3.54 million, including contingency, on September 12, 2018. PPC Construction, the first low bidder, is a small business enterprise, a local business enterprise, and met the mandatory subcontracting requirement for this project. It is our recommendation that the board declare PPC Construction first low bidder to be the lowest responsible bidder and award a contract for $2,865,180 and authorize the president or 2 members of the board to execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained from the city attorney.
Any questions on agenda item number 5? Questions on number 5? No protest from the Commissioner Garcia. You were tempted.
Yeah, I was tempted, and now I'm
here we
just
go.
gonna do it. Question.
The floor is yours.
On your subcontractors, I was waiting for Commissioner Davis to say something, that's why. But,
That's why I asked twice.
yeah, I was waiting for a commissioner to do this, okay. Can you give us a better description of why the subcontracting numbers are a little low on the diversion amount?
Couldn't be any lower.
Yeah,
Commissioner Garcia is being very polite this morning.
no problem.
Why are there zeros? But go ahead.
Well, I was waiting for Commissioner Davis to do this, but
Yeah,
he's coming. He's going to get in depth right now, so let us know.
The project scope of work is very heavy on the civil side, so it's a storm drain work, and if your prime contractor specializes in civil PPC construction, I worked with them when I was in the storm drain division before. So what is left is electrical or instrumentation, and the component of that scope is much smaller. So when the whole scope is smaller, so their numbers are smaller on the subcontractor, but they themselves are also the certified small business enterprise and also the local business enterprise. It's just the nature of the scope of work. Let's say if this project has heavy on instrumentation or electrical, I know PPC construction, they will definitely have a subcontractor for that. But since it's a storm drain project, so very heavy on civil, so that is one reason. As part of the requirement, they have to do the good faith effort to go and find, but the scope is such that it lacks much of the specialized work, and whatever is there is very small amount.
So out of a $2.8 million contract, the scope of the work is geared towards more, what did you say, the construction or the civil part of it?
The civil this project does have a civil component, a mechanical component, because there's a pumps involved.
Okay.
It will also have instrumentation to find out for the plant to see how the water level is doing. But you see the installation of a storm drain, the modification of the wet well, the installation of a hydrodynamic separator, it's all civil. So its major component is a civil. So it's
more heavy on a very specialized type of work.
So civil is many contractor, including this contractor, will be doing it. If the in a treatment plant, we may have a project which is all electrical, then if this contractor is doing, they will surely have a very high number of the sub percentage.
Okay. So let me get this straight. So PPC in the past has always been able to meet their subcontracting numbers. It's just for this specialized work, they're a little low.
I'm not aware of, but the table provided by the BCA, it does show some better number than in the board report.
In the past.
It does show some better number than just for this project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Davis.
I wanted to ask, this is a locally funded project, right? It's not federally funded.
That's correct, sir.
And so did we have mandatory contracting minimum that the prime contractor gave us?
That's correct. It's 15.
And what was that?
15%, and they met with the 50.
How much did they give us in terms of minority business enterprise or women business in the minority? I mean, in the mandatory contracting minimum. What did they tell us?
So the pledge amount is 0.88% for the SPE, small business enterprise. They are not pledging anything for the minority.
So
or
they never
the women.
even bidded in?
Yeah, they're not pledging.
Well, in terms of civil engineering, you said this was civil engineering, right?
Major component.
There are some minority civil engineers.
I agree with that.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, there are. Yes.
Yeah. So in this case, I mean, I don't know what the details are, but, civil is a very popular area of engineering where there are, in fact, minorities. So I would love to see in the future, I talked about if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. And every year, in every instance, in every case, we always say that this is a specialized area. Well, how many years are we going to keep saying that? When is there going to be growth and development? But more important than that, there are some companies that are able to find minorities, unfortunately for those who say that there are none. And then yet at the same time, over and over again, we're not able to reach our potential. And I'm not second guessing what specifically happened here, but what we do know is that perhaps there are some companies that can help us to achieve what it is that we claim that we're interested in achieving. We claim that we are interested in more minorities and more women. That's what we claim. Well, I'm taking us at our word. If it's true that that's what we really want to do, then I think when we look at companies like, I forgot Jacobs, I guess is what it's called now, I still call them CH2M Hill, we need to collaborate more with those prime contractors because, I mean, it's just like us as human beings. You know, we all aren't equal when it gets down to results. And we do have some exemplars who do business with the city of Los Angeles. And in fact, CH2M Hill is one of those prime contractors, and there may be others. But for the purpose of my discussion, I'd love to see us collaborate with them to help some of the prime contractors to realize their dreams, to include more minority businesses and more women businesses in the work that we do. And I'd love for the department, for the Bureau, to look at ways in which we might develop a pipeline in the future for these areas where there has not been any training, if you will, or inclusion, if you will, time and again, year in, year out. So I think that it is important that we begin to look at that. But I'll just conclude by saying there are some minority civil engineers, and I don't know what happened. I can't second guess. I wasn't there when they began their process, but there is more hope and there is more opportunity than is being presented to us.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. I would only note that for somebody that might just be listening on to this one hearing, that we recently, and to Commissioner Davis's point, we recently had a group of contractors in our hearing room in the last month, I think, in the last month and a half, that Commissioner Davis recognized because of the substantial success that they've had in this area. So, so there are elements of success in this area. We just need to be more consistent in finding it. That said, I suspect it's with reluctance that I'm going to have to be the one that makes the motion that we adopt agenda item number 5, which is something that the board president gets to do in these instances. Second by Commissioner Garcia. All right, thank you. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 5. And I would only note, Mr. Shaw, that we appreciate the Bureau's including in the board reports, as you always do, the contracting history of these contractors that we're awarding contracts to. I would mention regarding this particular contractor that we did not get a protest from the second low bid, which wasn't that far away. So we can't really go there. We didn't get a protest. But when you look at the history of this particular contractor, their numbers aren't much better. There's a slight increase in WBE, but in the MBE category, their consistency is glaring. Thus our reluctance. But the motion did pass. This contract will be awarded. Any issues sending it forthwith? We'll send it forthwith. Thank you, sir.
Thank
We appreciate it. Dr. Campos, have we cleared the desk this morning?
Yes, you have.
Okay, everyone. Have a great weekend. We'll be back here in this session on Monday morning. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.